guys. There's just, there's nothing like filming like 30 minutes worth of footage only for your camera to die and lose all that footage. So this is round 2 for me. But hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Abby. I'm doing a Q&A today for the people that interacted with my Instagram stories. I wanted to post some question bubble. So I posted a question bubble on my Instagram story and you guys asked me questions about photography and all that good stuff. So I'm just going to jump into it. I might not have time to answer all of these questions because sometimes I start to ramble and then spend way too much time on all of these questions and then it's just like the longest video of everybody's life. So there are some too that I think will involve me making a whole other video about, so just hang in there with me. I promise these questions, I feel like there are so many questions that you guys have asked that have been repeat questions for a while, and I just haven't had the time to sit down and really truly answer them in depth, which is why I want to make YouTube videos about it so that, you can get it all in one video and learn all that stuff from me. So I'm working on it. I also just recently created this setup. I'm sorry if it's a little bit janky, but I, set this up for my dog. I did a photo shoot of him for his first birthday and realized, wow, this is actually a good background because all of our walls in our apartment are brown and they're just not cute. So I was like, why not leave the white sheet up? Who knows how long this will be here, but I've just been trying to create a new setup for YouTube stuff lately. I got these lights recently because I was just struggling with the lines and all that good stuff. So, we're learning things here. So yeah, this is my setup for now. It's a little jank, so I apologize, but we're having a good time. All right, let's jump into this. Round 2 for me. I literally talked for a full 30 minutes. I think it was a full 30 minutes. So this time I'm going to stop the camera at least a couple questions in and just make sure that I'm not going to let it die and save some footage. Let's get started here with some of these questions. I had somebody ask about tips for getting into the basics for lenses and editing and light settings and all that good stuff. So when you're just starting out in photography, there's, it's all very confusing right away. You're kind of I don't know how to work a camera. I don't know what lenses I need. What do I do with that? How do I edit? What do I edit on? Lots of questions for sure. But I feel like just keep it as simple as possible by getting yourself a camera that you can afford and that has the ability to have interchangeable lenses, so DSLR. And I definitely recommend that if you are only wanting one lens at the moment, I think a 24-70 is honestly probably your best bet. I think that's really universal for doing zoomed stuff, for doing no wide angle stuff. It's really great. This is actually what my camera has on right now is a 24-70 and I love it. I literally love it so much. It's one of my favorite lenses of all time. And I just got it a couple months ago. I'm how have I never had this lens? For the longest time ever though, I've been obsessed with my 35mm from Sigma. And I love how low the aperture goes on that one. That's very artistic. It's a very artistic lens. And then I also have this bad boy, my 50-100 from Sigma, which I love. This thing goes down to 1.8 or 1.4, I think. Pretty sure it's 1.8. It might be 1.4. I don't know. But this is a really, really great lens too. And I do a lot of my portrait stuff on this lens. This is really great for really artsy stuff, artistic stuff, especially when you have a lot of space. I don't recommend it for tight spaces, but when you're out in the open, outside, and all that good stuff, this is a great lens. The 35mm is also really, really great. That's what I would recommend for a beginner when it comes to lenses. When it comes to cameras, I always recommend people the Sony a6000. That's what I started on, and I think it's a great camera to start on because you're not investing too much to the point where you're because there's a lot of people out there who buy cameras and then they never use them again. So you kind of have to think about, starting out with something a little bit smaller maybe, and then getting the hang of it, learning how to use it, and then going from there and upgrading from there. That's what I recommend. I think it's a really great camera. It's really great for, the quality it is for a beginner. I shot weddings on that camera when I was starting out, which is kind of funny to think about. But that's what I had at the time. That's all I could afford to use. So it's a good camera for beginners. And then when it comes to editing, I feel like it's kind of a broad question when it comes to editing, because I'm always like, well, what do you want to know? What do you want to know about editing? But I think just things to like start thinking about when you want to edit is like getting, Lightroom, getting an Adobe account and doing Lightroom on your computer or whatever, and getting yourself some presets. I think with editing, that is the easiest way to get started with consistency in your editing, is by buying presets from a photographer who knows what they're doing, who knows how to make presets. It has like reputable presets. That's a really hard thing to say. But that's what I would recommend looking into. And if you need recommendations for presets, hit me up, comment on this video. I will send you, links or whatever to photographers that I use presets from or have used presets from before. So that's what I would recommend for that. I think presets are great for creating your style and getting that consistency in. So yeah. Okay, so I really like this question because I think this is a really good question. And the question is, what are the best ways to get more inquiries without an IG following? And I think that is such a good question, because it can be really hard when you're just starting out or when your account is still really small and you're like, what do I even do? Like, how am I going to get inquiries? Like, how do I do this without, that community? And I think when you're just starting out with that and your social media platforms, utilize all that the app has for you. So for instance, when I was starting out, I was hashtagging like crazy. And honestly, I still hashtag. Like, I still hashtag a lot. And I have people that are like, oh yeah, I found you on a hashtag. They work. They really do. I mean, they know there's like shadow banning or whatever, all that stuff with hashtags. But for the most part, like, it works. So just keep hashtagging what you would want to do. And when it comes to hashtagging, hashtag like locations. Like, so like, for instance, if I was trying to be a couples photographer and I wanted couples to find me and hire me in San Diego, I would hashtag things like San Diego couples photographer, San Diego elopement photographer, San Diego couples portraits, San Diego couples photography, San Diego, or like even tag beaches or random things like that I want to shoot at, or maybe even go as far as like Orange County couples photographer, Orange County engagement photographer, San Diego engagement photographer. Those kinds of like keywords. I feel like hashtags are kind of like an SEO for Instagram. So that's a good way to kind of, start reaching beyond what your following already is. But when we're also talking about like getting inquiries, I think word of mouth is just huge too. So whoever you have that has worked with you, like, I would say maybe get some of those clients to write you reviews or testimonials or whatever, and post those, keep those visible on your website. Maybe even like, offer discounts to those people if they refer people to you. If they refer people to you and then the referral books you, then you could like offer discount codes to like the client that referred them to you. I mean, that's just like a good way to like treat your clients well and rope them back in, a little bit with like an exciting thing that they received from getting to help you with your business. Like, you give back by, it's gonna like that friendly exchange, that can be a really great way to like network and build trust with your clients and excitement and all that jazz. So that can just be helpful for bringing in more clientele in the future, is marketing through discounts. So also doing giveaways are huge. I think a big way that I started to get more eyes on my work in the beginning was when I was doing a lot of giveaways for photo shoots, whether that was for a couple or an individual or whatever anyone wanted it to be. It helps get the word out and like get people to turn their eye to like you and what you do. So that's something that you could try and see if that works for you. Those are just kind of like the early stage, like, kind of tactics that I would recommend. Also, reels are really great. I mean, reels are, they're frustrating and hard. Like, I still struggle with reels, but they can be really great for getting just eyes on your work. So like, think about it like this, because so many people are like, my reels don't go viral, my reels suck, like, no one sees my reels. And like, that's how I kind of feel about my reels right now. Like, I don't have anything that has above 10K views at all, like, in majority of my reels right now. But if you think about it this way, I have like anywhere between like 3,000 to 8,000 people viewing my reels right now. And like, that's like a lot of people, like, that's like way more eyes seeing my work or whatever I have going on in my reel than what my posts see. So like, I feel like it's like, you got to look at it that way, where it's like, even if you're just reaching that much more, that's great. So don't expect yourself to be viral and go viral and blow up on Instagram or whatever right away, because it just honestly is a process. And it took me like 5 years to get to where I am now, like with my following and views and whatever, engagement and community. It takes a while. So just trust the process and you'll be good. Yeah, so that's what I would say for that. Sorry, I'm like kind of taking a lot of time on these questions, so I'm going to try to get through all these. I really probably won't get through all of them, but I'm sorry if I don't get to your question. I'm just going to try to pick the ones I haven't really answered before, or I have a good answer to, or whatever. All right, so someone asked, how do you get into brand photography? And this is a question that I definitely get a lot, especially in my DMs, which is great. I love getting the answer to this question. This is something that I'm still trying to figure out. I just switched into brand photography at the beginning of 2022, so, I'm not necessarily a master at this yet. I'm still learning, but I've taken you guys along that journey with me a lot this year, and have kind of helped some other photographers get on that track with me as well, which is really cool. But what I would say, first things first, is build connections with brands online. Like, that is like the best way to like get a connection, is engaging with all the posts and the content of your favorite brands on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, and just like build a connection with them. It builds trust, and it kind of gives them the idea that like you are a supporter of the brand, which you should be, if you want to work with them. And I think that that's an important way to like start building that foundation. And then what I would do is essentially reach out offering to collaborate on something, because most brands love, getting free shoots and don't mind exchanging product for photos. So, find a brand that you love, reach out to them and see if they would be down to do a collaboration. And then from there, that's your opportunity to build your portfolio. I can't even tell you guys how many free shoots I've done this year. But it's because I'm just getting into this. I'm just getting started. I'm really trying to like do as much as I can to build my portfolio and get that going, so that I can, be set and ready for all the jobs that might come my way. But it also opens up a lot of doors to do that. So I know it's hard to take a lot of free work. It's an interesting transition this year for me financially, because it takes away less time from being able to get real clients and get the income that you need. But I try to do at least like 1 or 2 collaborations a month. That doesn't always happen, but it happens every now and then. And it has honestly opened doors. Like, doing collaborations can often lead to a real job with that brand that you shoot for. So I definitely recommend doing that if you're wanting to get into it, and then just start doing that and see if you even like it, and then there's no pressure of them being a real client. You're just, doing an exchange and a collaboration. But I think that's a good way to start and get your portfolio built up with that. So someone asked, how can we learn manual mode? So that's a really good question. I actually really want to make a video about this. I've been meaning to make a video about this for weeks now. But like I said, I'm trying to get this set up in my office and stuff all set and ready for that. But I do want to make a video that is like a cheat sheet for you guys. So I will try to have that video ready and out by the time I release this video, so that you can just hop over to that video and save that, save it to a playlist. Pull it up whenever you need to, whenever a shoot or before your shoot or whatever, and then you can kind of review the basics and then jump in and kind of practice learning how to shoot in manual. But one of my biggest tips for that is to just pay attention to your aperture, your shutter, your ISO, and your white balance. So 4 settings. Your white balance is the color of like the color and the tones of your pictures. So you're going to want to set that to whatever you're trying to, whatever you're trying to achieve with that. And then with your shutter, you want to keep it at least above 500. I try never to go below 400, because then it just gets blurry at that point. So keep that as high as you can. And then aperture, I try to keep as low as I can, because I really like the artisticness of a low aperture. But, you can kind of play around with that and just see how you like it. And then ISO, start at 400, and then from there only raise it unless you absolutely have to as the sun is going down, or if you're in a really dark lighting scenario, because the higher your ISO is, the more grainy your photos are going to be, and it's not the cute grain. It is an ugly grain, so it's really hard to get rid of it in editing too. So just pay attention to all those things and play around with it and see kind of what happens, because you'll get the hang of it. You'll learn that it's kind of a domino effect, where every setting that you touch is going to affect another setting. So you just got to kind of rotate through them and just figure that out, and then you should be set and ready to move forward in your skill level I guess you could say. So I will have a video for that. I promise. I promise it. I'm promising now. So that I do it. I'm making a promise. Because I keep my promises. At least I try to. So, yeah. Okay. Moving on. Someone asked, what inspires you in your beautiful work? That's so nice. Thanks. I'm so glad you think it's beautiful. That's so sweet. What inspires me? Oh boy, there's lots of things. I feel like there's people, like, there could be like a million things that inspire me. Like, it could be like a random thing one day. Like, it could be a song. It could be a color. It could be a sunset I saw. It could be a person walking down the street that I saw. Fashion, honestly, okay. Fashion is like a huge inspiration for me. I don't know why, but like I've always been really into fashion, but like there are just random things where I'll be like, that is a vibe. And I'll be like, I've got an idea. And then it inspires me to like create something or whatever. So I don't know, that's kind of what I would say. Like it's a concoction of like random things like that. Obviously other photographers are obviously a huge inspiration to me too. But yeah, and then like Pinterest. So those are like my main things that I feel like typically inspire me. But yeah, I don't know if that answers the question, but it's kind of a mix of all those things. So someone asked, what made me want to become a full-time photographer? And to be honest, the second I touched a camera, I guess you could say is what made me want to go full-time. But I mean, I got my first camera when I was in like 8th grade. So naturally after that, I was like, yep, this is my life path. This is what I will be doing for the rest of my life. So, I mean, you know, I just picked up a camera and started playing around with it. My friends and family said I was really good at it. And I said, great, at least I'm good at something. That must be what I should do with my life. So that's what I did. Got a degree in photography. And then it wasn't until 2020 that I went full-time. But I was part-time starting in 2017 because I didn't finish college until 2019. So I had like a part-time job and then realized, you know, oh my gosh, like this is just not going to work. I can't do both. I need to just choose one. So I decided to just go full-time in 2020. And it was great and best decision of my life. So here we are. Okay, so this is my last like Instagram bubble question that I'm going to answer. And then I'm going to hop over to the anonymous box that I did. Oh, I don't know if you can see that, but that's quite a lot of dog hair. I need a vacuum in here. That's disgusting. You know, lint roller for my mic. We'll roll with that. Okay, so the next question that somebody asked was about just like, I don't know, I guess in general, like, what do I have to say about like shooting in direct sunlight and harsh light and editing? It's a great question because I feel like a lot of people wonder about this and they definitely reach out a lot to me about this because I pretty much primarily shoot in direct sunlight. Like, I feel like that's like the majority of what I do right now, which is kind of sad going into winter here. But thank goodness I live in San Diego where it's mostly sunny, but it rained today, so, you know. But I would say that shooting in direct sunlight can be tricky, so you just want to make sure that you're trying to perfectly expose and not overexpose too much and not underexpose too much. Because when you're shooting with so much contrast, it can be really hard to bring up or bring down those highlights and shadows in editing. So you just want to kind of like, you know, practice with your settings a lot when you're shooting. And then with editing, I feel like my biggest tip, honestly, is to like get presets that are made for direct sunlight. That is what changed my life when it came to shooting in the direct sunlight, is getting presets that like literally are from photographers that have done and mostly shoot in that lighting, because there's a lot of photographers that sell presets that are mainly for like really soft sunset portraiture, which is totally fine. I just don't think it's totally universal and transferable most of the time. So I would say, you know, get yourself some good presets for that. And if you need recommendations, comment below. I'll link some of my faves of photographers I've purchased from, and then hopefully that'll be helpful for you to test out. But yep, that's what I would say about that. All right, so now we're going to move on to the anonymous question box. It's very interesting. I feel like, I don't know if anybody else has experienced this on Instagram, but I feel like more people ask questions in that than they do in the regular Instagram bubble. I get way more interaction with that one for some reason, and I love it. It's great. And maybe it's just because people love not being known when they ask a question. I don't know. I don't know what it is. But I'm glad you guys interact with it. So we're just going to answer some questions for that. Also, the first two questions were so weird. I don't know who asked these, but like, I hope it's a joke. Like the first one was, would you say yes if I asked you out? And then it just says from the letter A. And that's just weird. I'm married. I hope you know that. I hope it's very obvious that I am married. I feel like I post about my husband a lot. So also, here's my ring. I don't know if it's going to focus or not, but yeah, he did pretty good. Yeah, so don't know why you would ask that. I think it's a joke. I'm hoping it's a joke. So we're going to move on, because that was not photography related. Neither is this question, but whatever. This person said, when was the last time you lied? And that's a good question. But, like, I don't remember. Like, I feel like that's something that I don't try to lie. I'm also pretty bad at lying. I feel like I'm not, like, it's really hard to hide something from somebody for me. Like, I'm very, like, all about authenticity, and so I just don't know if that's something that I really do that often. I mean, I know everybody lies, but, like, it's just one of those things, like, I can't remember off the top of my head the last time I lied. So, yeah, I don't know what to say about that one. So we're gonna move on. Okay, I love this next question. Someone asked, how do you get people to feel comfortable and relax taking pictures by themselves for things like brand photography? So that's a great question, because when you're shooting an individual, it can be so different from a couple, where like a couple has like their person or their spouse or whatever to like be in that situation together with, whereas like an individual may be really nervous and they're just all alone. They're just standing there and waiting for you to tell them what to do, and that can be a little bit stressful for both you and the subject because you're like wanting to make them feel comfortable and feel natural, while also you not getting stressed about how to pose them. So I would say, you know, especially with brands, if we're talking brand photography, don't focus too much on the model. Focus as much as you can on the product, because if you have someone who's not as experienced and they're like, I don't know what to do, what do I do? It's like, don't worry about it. Like, you know, reassure your client that like you've got their back, like you've got them. Don't worry about it. Like, I will tell you what to do, or whatever. And oftentimes too, like, especially if I'm working with somebody who has experience in modeling, I will tell them to just do their thing. And if I really like something that they're doing, I will tell them that I'm gonna like tell them to stop right there, like stop right there, you know, hold that pose, I want to get that. Or I'll tell them, you know, if for some reason I need you to do something different or I don't like what you're doing, I will direct you, you know, I will tell you what to do. So it's just good to reassure your person that's modeling for you that you have their back, essentially. But I feel like getting people to feel comfortable also, I love playing music at my sessions. I haven't done it a ton lately because I've just have been forgetting to charge my speaker. When I have my speaker, I try to play music, and it just sets a vibe that kind of like loosens people up a little bit more and makes it feel less like awkward when it's just silent and you're like just clicking away. It can be really awkward. So I think it's great for that when it just fills in that void, and honestly sometimes just gets people feeling comfortable, especially when you play someone's favorite music. So ask your model or client, you know, what kind of music they like to listen to, what genre, and then just pop something on that they love, and then they usually will end up vibing with it, and then they'll start to feel relaxed. So that's what I would recommend. Yeah, and then also just like starting off slow. Like, don't make them do anything super crazy right off the bat. I think that can be really helpful, is just not pushing them too far too fast. Like, give them a couple of things to do to warm up and see where they're at in their level of modeling, and then from there go from there with what you are gonna do next. All right, so this is literally like the 5th time I have had to restart like answering some of these questions, because at first my camera died, and then my audio stopped recording, and then my microphone cord unplugged. I didn't realize it. So I'm just gonna answer these questions now as fast as I can because I am hungry and tired now, and my voice is getting shot. So this is just the life of YouTube. So somebody asked me if I can walk you guys through an example of how I edit, and that is something that I want to do. I really want to do that. The only thing is I want to make that a completely separate video, because it's just going to take so much time for me to like go in depth with that and like really show you guys what I do and how I edit. And I just feel like I know I'm just going to go on tangents. Like I try to keep things short and sweet, but sometimes things need explanation, so I'm an over-explainer. I can't help it. I'm going to show you guys that in another video, and I do plan to make that soon. It's on my queue, so I promise I will do that. You can be on the lookout for that, which is why you should subscribe, because then you will hopefully see that when you're browsing YouTube when it pops up when I finish that video. So another person said, what's your Spotify top songs? That's a fun question. I'm just going to tell you guys what's on my current playlist that I love. But as of right now, I've always loved Valley. Valley is like hands down one of my favorite bands of all time. I really like the Problem song. It's a new one they came out with, and their cover of There She Goes. I also really love this song right now. It's a cover of Have You Ever Seen the Rain by Millie Ripa. I really love that song. I love all versions of that song, especially the reggae one. It's really good. Other than that, I have been like pretty much playing Taylor Swift's new album on repeat. So my favorite song from that album right now is Lavender Haze, Bejeweled, and Anti-Hero. Those are like my 3 favorites. Okay, my last question that somebody asked is, what is my biggest regret in my business? That is a really heavy question and a really good one. Time to reflect. Okay, so I feel like there's just not a ton that I regret because I feel like everything that I've done has led me to where I'm at now. I think, there's some things I probably could have done differently, and I definitely think I should have jumped into attending retreats and styled shoots way quicker. I didn't realize how beneficial that was for building my portfolio. But I think that is like a huge thing that I like really, really, really am glad that I did once I did do that. So I guess just doing that sooner would have been good. And then obviously, like, I feel like most people will probably say this, but just getting a good contract right off the bat, like invest in a contract, like spend the money. They're expensive, but spend the money on it. It's worth it to protect you, protect your client. It's just good all around. So those are the things that I regret not doing sooner. I think it's always just a matter of like how soon you do something. And I think that those are the things that I just regret not doing. Okay, so the last question that I have is, what is my favorite cue or direction to give people that are uber awkward to loosen up? This is a really good question. There are a lot of people out there that are they struggle way more than others when it comes to following direction. I think that's a big one. It's not necessarily that people are just like super awkward, but I think they're not as body smart. So like, for instance, you may say something that someone maybe understands better than somebody else of like what you mean and what you're trying to like get them to do. So some people just take a little bit longer to get there, and that's okay. I would say, majority of my clients actually, they all come in saying, I feel so awkward. Oh my gosh, like you're gonna like have the hardest time posing me, like all this stuff, but it always ends up being really good. And I feel like even when people are more awkward than others, like I still capture them, I capture who they are as authentically as I can possibly capture them, and without, making them look bad. I don't know. You just have to remind yourself too that like not everybody is going to, pose exactly the same and look good doing every pose that everybody else does. Like some people may just like need you to direct them a little bit differently, because that's just who they are, and that's okay. It's all good. All good in the hood. I would say there are some tips that I have for getting to a place where your client feels comfortable and confident and you feel comfortable and confident in how you're going to direct them. So right off the bat, when I start, it doesn't matter who is experienced and who's not. Usually when I am posing people, I usually start by having them either, walk, whether it's a couple or an individual. If it's a couple, I have them hold hands and walk towards me and like kind of pull each other in and out, kind of bump hips and then go back out and then go back in again. And that to me is a good warm-up pose for people who need to loosen up. But I do that with everybody because it just gets everybody comfortable. I also always try to play a speaker with music and get, that awkward void of like in between moments filled with music and sound that like kind of eases and comforts the client and you. And I also like will start out with I'll start out with that, and then I'll start out with like a couple other poses that are like my go-to beginner poses that pretty much anybody can handle, anybody can do it. And that's how I like kind of get a feel for my clients. I get a feel for how comfortable they are, how easy the pose was for them, if they were able to follow it. And if they weren't, then I'd go into something that's more simple instead of going into something that's a little bit more complicated. So I feel like you just kind of have to gauge and be really in tune with like where your clients are at as you're shooting, and that'll give you an idea of like where to go next. Hopefully that answers that question. I think that is all the questions that I have for now. I hope that I was able to answer as many as I could. But thank you so much if you participated in this, and thank you for being here. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe. You'll get to see, all my new videos pop up if you subscribe. So that's helpful for you and for me. Yeah, thanks so much for being here, and I'll see you guys next time.